Blood Time, the podcast that speaks to the bond, the emotion between coach and athlete at the interscholastic and intercollegiate level. Each interview, each segment will reveal that bond and what was learned, how they were transformed, and what each athlete took to the world at large from that transformation. These stories will warm your heart and astound you altogether. Submitted for your approval. Now it is Blood Time. Welcome to Blood Time. This episode features the athletic director from Beechwood High School, a dear friend of mine, a young man that I coached back in the day at Beechwood. He was the captain of the Beechwood wrestling team in 1991 and 92, maybe even 90. We had a phenomenal guest last episode, Jason Thomas, and in that he added some of the attributes that make up the athlete, the DNA, the integrity, the preparation, the creativity, the consistency, but he added courage. What I'm going to add with Ryan Peters is caring and tenacity, and I witnessed the greatest work ethic I've ever coached. In that work ethic, it prepared him for the work that he is doing today in the Beechwood school system, but more importantly, his caring and his consistency and his integrity in helping those young men and women. What in the room of wrestling did this prepare you for, Ryan? Welcome.
Thank you, Pete. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. It is an honor.
My pleasure.
So I'm going to give you a little background on who I am.
Please do.
So you can understand. So I was born, I'm 46 years old.
Okay.
I had two amazing parents, Vicki Peters and Alan Peters. They raised me with a very high level of integrity, very hard working work ethic, a lot of love, a lot of care.
Right. But they were completely different personalities.
Total different personalities. My dad was more of a hard-nosed individual. My mom was a beautiful soul. She passed away when I was in college, but
we all miss her deeply.
I do too. But she was one of those. She was a driving force. She had a ton of friends. She knew how to make connections. She knew how to push in the right way. And as a young athlete, they were parents that pushed, but very quietly. Like you wouldn't have known that they pushed.
Right.
Not like we're dealing with today.
Right.
So I was.
Well, your dad was from the street.
My dad was from the street.
So he was a street. He was a street kid,
my
right? And
dad,
he met this beautiful woman, and all of a sudden, they come together and they create this incredible relationship.
They had an incredible marriage.
Right.
They worked really well together. They raised me and my older siblings, Fawn, who's 12 years older than me, and Scott, who's 8 years older than me.
Okay.
And we had an amazing childhood. I was kind of raised sort of as Scott and Fawn were older than me, so I was raised alone. Pretty much. So
you were like the little prize.
I was the little prize.
You were the little treasure.
The really cool part of it is, Fawn went off to college, and Scott was there taking me to every little thing. Same with Fawn at the time.
Sure.
But I saw everything, and I saw amazing times. I remember going into wrestling practices at Beechwood High School when I was probably 4 and 5 years old. So I was just raised with a real sense of working hard, get at it, never quit. I remember early on, I started wrestling when I was 5 years old.
Right.
And started with a program at Beechwood. Bob Bloom was running the program. I think my brother at the time was in middle school, and he was helping out with the program.
Sure.
And it was a nice program, but it was a very recreational program. And at that time, I met a guy named Bernie Weisskopf. Bernie Weisskopf was instrumental in taking my wrestling career to a different level.
Unique and special guy.
Very unique, very special. Made an enormous impact on my life. Bernie was with a guy that kind of showed me the way. He took me to Longwood, where I was coached by some amazing coaches, all Hall of Fame coaches. A guy named Dave Mariola, who's the head coach at Twinsburg. Graham Coghill was longtime coach at Chanel, and
all Hall of Famers.
All Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
Tim Rutherford, who was one of their assistants there as well. I grew up around some amazing coaches.
These guys really cared about their kids.
They cared. Yeah. They would do.
They were like father figures, weren't they?
Without question. Yeah. And they were honest with you. They were real with you.
Yeah. Well, they held you to a standard that they would their son.
Without question.
if you love somebody, if you're not honest, you're not really loving them.
Without question.
You know.
So, and I grew up around amazing talent. At Longwood, we had the likes of Alan Freed and Peter Nathanson and Michael Sasso and Jimmy and Joey Andrasi,
right.
Todd Hill, Johnny Mazie. I mean, these kids that all went on to win state championships.
Right.
And it was hardcore.
Right.
At that time, wrestling was way different. There weren't a lot of neighborhood clubs. This was the premier club.
Sure.
But yeah, so growing up, I had an incredible experience. Going through high school, played football. I played for an amazing Hall of Fame coach, Joe Perella. He had an amazing staff.
And that guy was all about love.
He was all about love.
My brother played for him, and when I talked to him about what's going on with Joe now, he's had some decline in health. Yeah, a tear comes to his eye.
No question.
And everybody that I talked to, from Michael Dolovec, who lives in Bali, to Jason Tom, whoever it is, they have that same feeling of camaraderie and family.
Without question. I mean, Joe did something that you don't see very often. He came in there as sort of he came into Beechwood as a very tough guy.
Right.
He came from Little Italy,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
And he instilled a way about all of us. What he instilled, him and every coach I ever had instilled this. There's no shortcuts. Joe was one of those guys that said, you do a 10-yard down and out, it's 10 yards, it's not 9 yards, it's
Right.
10 yards, and this is the way you're going to turn.
Right.
It was how you carry the ball, and how you love your teammates. So I learned a ton from that group. Now, going on to wrestling at the high school level,
Sure.
I was fortunate to have you as my head coach.
I was extremely blessed to have you because you were absolutely the best lead dog I've ever seen. I said, if I can get anybody to be 85% of Ryan, we got ourselves state championships.
I appreciate that. So, I had you, I had my brother, Scott, I had Michael Goldberg, I had Jeff Tolan.
An all-star cast.
An all-star cast. And those are people that I'd go to war for any day of the week.
Vice versa.
I would do anything for any of those guys, anytime. When growing up, I think when I was in 8th grade, my brother had a big conversation with me. You might have been sitting there. And the comment was, do what we tell you to do, don't ask questions.
Right.
I said, well, what does that mean?
Yeah.
That was the question.
Yeah, sure.
He says, if you do what we tell you to do, you'll be a state champ.
Right.
Multiple times. The work ethic that I instilled in myself and that was shown to me was, I don't know, it was a feverish
Right.
work ethic.
Right.
But it was one that I will never ever forget, and it's made my life what it is today. So, going forward, in high school, I started dating my wife, Elise. We have been together since 1990.
That is a great love story.
Which is incredible. I have a phenomenal wife. We have 3 children. We have Hudson, who's just turned, there's 12. We got London.
Come on. She's 12 years old.
She's 12.
Oh, my God.
She's 12. London. Actually, no, I'm sorry. Hudson's 13.
Wow.
13.
13.
I can't believe that. And London is 12, and then Phoenix is 8. And we have...
That's a great name, Phoenix. I love it.
We have an absolutely incredible family. Live next door to my brother and his family. And we've got incredible in-laws that have dinner with us regularly. They've really made an impact on us as far as how we raise our family. So I'm very fortunate.
So all this family is an incredible underpinning, an incredible foundation to take to a position that literally you have possibly 200 family members as athletes.
For sure.
Including coaches and support staff, and Julie, your terrific trainer, everybody that's associated with this program. I would assume you have to treat or feel as a family member. How does that affect you?
So literally, when you go through the hiring process of a new coach, you got to make sure it's the right feel. I very rarely will ask.
Trust your gut.
You have to trust your gut.
Okay.
So when I'm interviewing people for jobs, it's very rare that I'll ask them about X's and O's.
Okay.
It's not that important.
Okay.
Because if they're coming to meet with me, and listen, I do my background checks and make sure that they are well qualified. But it's who they are. It's the person inside. If they're coming in to make a difference in a child's life and pay it forward, they're they're honest and they're hardworking. I have if you look at my staff across the board, there's a lot of similarities.
Okay.
They're all drivers.
All right.
They all have so much passion. They work so hard. They love kids. They go to the end of the earth for a kid.
Sure.
Any hour of the day. That's what I'm looking for when I hire people. That's very, very important to me, that would do anything.
So they're echoes of some of the things that you hold dear.
Without question. And
They're not necessarily exactly like you, but they have similar feelings. Now, let me ask you a question, because in my business career and in my coaching, and I tell my children this, I said, use your intellect first and then bring your love and passion. It seems like you're doing both at the same time.
For sure.
Am I correct in saying that? And the reason I use my intellect first is I want to be objective, because sometimes I really like somebody, but I got to take a hard look at them.
Mm-hmm.
Has that ever bit you, where you've trusted your gut and it because you just like them so much that, it maybe not was a great decision?
Yeah, of course.
And what did you learn from that?
So, there's times where you see the outpouring of love for a kid.
Sure.
And you're just eating it up. Like, oh
right.
my God, this person really loves kids. However, they have to be ethical.
Okay.
And they have to be honest. So that's I have had a situation. I've had situations where I'm like, oh, gosh, this person loves kids, but they can't follow the straight and narrow.
Gotcha.
And if you can't follow the straight and narrow, especially in a public school system, it makes it very, very difficult. I won't compromise the integrity and the honesty of our programs.
That's beautiful.
But you have to do things right. But there's it comes in many different ways. Now I will say.
Well, how many people do you hire? I mean, you have how many coaches do you have at Beechwood?
So I got about 65, 70 people on my coaching staff, and
how many years have you been there?
So this is the start of my 11th year.
So just if you really do the numbers, that's 650 people that you possibly could have hired.
Sure.
You're not going to be 100%, right?
No, you're not going to be 100%. And listen, with regarding coaching.
Right.
So the difficult part is you have to be there at 3:00 to coach.
Right.
Okay. Most jobs don't let out till 5, 6 o'clock.
Right.
So for people to get off work and run over to Beechwood High School to
it's
coach,
a commitment.
It's a major commitment.
Right.
Sometimes you'll find the retired person or somebody that is young, energetic, or somebody that works a different shift.
Right.
So and also it's not a full-time job; it's a supplemental position.
Right. So the money isn't that great.
The money is it's not that great. For some, it's amazing.
Sure.
But that sometimes poses difficult situations where you're trying to find the diamond in the rough.
Right.
And you're not finding it because.
Sure.
Because you can't get them there at 3:00.
So how have you refined and learned from those? Because I love failure. I don't seek it out.
Yeah.
Okay, but I embrace it if it happens to me, because I like to fail forward. And so I learned from them. Like I've owned 9 businesses. Mm-hmm. 3 have failed. 6 have succeeded. I've learned more from those 3 failures than the 6 successes, without question. Even though I learned a lot from the successes. So tell me what you have done to hone your skills to not only do a better job in that situation. I'm not saying that you ever did a poor job, but to do a better job, and then also to engender that family feeling moving forward.
So failure is a important part of it. I mean, I'll just kind of look back. In high school, I lost 7 matches. Okay,
wow,
I remember every single one of those matches.
I lost 7 matches my freshman year before, I think, December.
but what I'll say about it is, you learn. I mean, I can replay those matches 1,000 times in my brain.
Sure. Every
single aspect of the match. As you grow into an adult, every single situation. I work with some incredible people. The superintendent that hired me is a gentleman named Rich Marquardt. He's now the superintendent over at West Geauga. Our current superintendent is Bob Hardis.
Quality guys.
Michelle Mills is our district treasurer. I work with some amazing principals, from our current principal, Paul Chase, to James Reed, to Ed Klein, to Tony Shritai. Every single person that I've worked with, and I have, you can't overlook assistants, secretaries.
Sure.
So we have assistant Lori Joyner and Vicki Diamond, who was my previous assistant, my current assistant, Casey DeMay. They every single thing we do, every single day, if there's something that's not done right, we have to fix it immediately. You can't let a mistake go.
Bad news and good news fast. That's the way I feel.
Right. So you just, when you're in these situations, when failure hits,
right,
okay, or something doesn't go right, you work together.
Sure.
And you evaluate it. Listen, I make mistakes. I'll never profess to be mistake-free. I make mistakes. It's part of life. But you have to learn from your mistakes, and you just have to sit back, evaluate it. What I could do differently. I mean, there were some things last year and the previous year,
right,
that you learn from, and and you reevaluate your life. I mean, every year I'm a goal-setting type of individual. That every year I set goals.
Sure.
Prior to the start of the year, my own personal goals, work goals, and I reflect on them. And
yes.
In those goals, I look at some of the things I did very well the year before, some of the things that I absolutely need to improve upon, and in every single program.
Right.
And that makes me a stronger athletic director. I really.
Speaking of that, you were chosen Athletic Director of the Year by numerous organizations. It has to be a sense of pride, but it also has to be a sense of standard that you need to continue to meet and to improve upon. And in those goals, is that part of it? Do we set the standard higher to yourself internally?
Yeah.
And
I mean, listen, somebody asked me years ago, what would you consider a successful year? A successful year to me is every single team in Beechwood winning a state championship in the same year.
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
And every kid getting a full ride scholarship, right? That's the ultimate success.
Right.
I don't know where that happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you evaluate yourself. You continue to look forward. You get better every single day. You don't dwell on the negative too. I mean, there's some things that has gone on, and you have to put things past you.
Sure.
Things are not always going to go your way. My number one objective when I go to work every single day is that the students of that school are happy and safe every single day. That every single kid is happy and safe, and every one of our staff members is happy and safe.
Yes. Hey, this is Coach Cimoroni for Cimoroni COUTURE. We have a Christmas, Hanukkah, New Year's special that we'd love to present to you guys. Buy one suit at $10.95 or higher and get one at 50% off now until January 2nd. Or buy one entry-level suit at $7.95 and get a shirt for free. Check us out at Cimoroni COUTURE. That's Cimoroni COUTURE, 216-287-1522, 216-287-1522.
My number one objective when I go to work every single day is that the students of that school are happy and safe every single day, that every single kid is happy and safe, and every one of our staff members is happy and safe.
Yes, safety.
So that's kind of how I'm living my life.
So Ryan, you've had some incredible athletes graduate and go on to college, scholarships, as you said. I think maybe even a couple had a sniff or a cup of coffee in the pros at some of their levels. But there's always that story of that athlete that never is going to do something like that, but really touches your heart. Is there anybody that you could share with us? And if you want to name their name, it's great. If you don't, but share with us that story that really makes being an athletic director just the best job in the world.
So I'm going to give you a coaching story.
Okay.
So there's a kid named Victor Newman.
Sure.
You remember Victor?
Oh yeah, Diamond. No, he wasn't the jeweler. That was Louis Glukov.
Yes. So Victor Newman wrestled for me. He was on a very good team.
Okay.
And Victor and Victor and I have talked about this in the past. So
sure. So
if he hears this, it's great.
He's giving you a poetic license. Indeed.
Yes.
Yeah.
But Victor was not a very good wrestler. Victor was below average. Was losing almost every match.
Sure.
And at that time, I learned a lot from Victor. I don't know if I wanted Victor on the team because he just didn't fit our mold.
Okay.
And, I was pushing the guys, if he didn't want to be here, get him off the team. Okay.
Gotcha.
This is early on in my coaching career. But Victor, we had a bowl session one day. We all sat in the room, and anybody that was on that team remembers it.
Right.
Sat in a circle, and everybody went around the room and said how they feel and what's going on in their minds and how can we get better as a team.
Sure.
And Victor turns and he says, "I hate you," and he points to me.
Okay.
And I'm like, all right, get it out, man.
Yeah,
get it out. Makes me feel real good.
Come here, let's hug it out.
So why do you hate me? He says, you're mean.
Right.
You push us too hard. You don't care about us.
Right.
And I'm like, all right, keep coming, Vic.
Yeah.
And Victor pointed it out to me that you need to look at the kid sort of at the end of the bench.
Okay.
You got to look at that kid.
Right.
And those kids that are not the stars, that are the kid at the end of the bench that want to be part of it,
right,
are probably the most critical people to that program at that particular day. Michael Linsker was on the team, who was a 2-time state champ for us.
Right.
And Michael was so happy for Victor.
Okay.
And he was such a cheerleader for Victor.
Okay.
And I was like, oh. So I missed the whole Victor thing, right?
Yeah.
But Victor was one of those kids that really made an impact on me. The other one was Sarah English.
Okay.
So Sarah English was a girl that came out for wrestling. At that time, girls weren't wrestling.
No. Just starting, maybe.
Just starting,
yeah.
I reflect on that situation as, it was mean. I didn't think Sarah was, didn't fit the mold of our team.
Right.
And she stuck it out. And the kids were way better than her and were tough and were beating her up. She kept coming back. Sarah ended up wrestling off in college. But it gave me a new appreciation for somebody that took a risk.
Sure.
A kid like Victor Newman, somebody like Sarah English, that took a risk, and they weren't the norm.
Right.
But they excelled. I do see it quite a bit at the high school level now, in the middle school level, that kids just want to be part of a team. They want to embrace it. They want to learn from it.
Right.
And every coach that I hire,
yes,
that is extremely important. That they make sure that every single kid
inclusion, yes.
And if they don't include and make every kid feel special,
right,
we're doing a disservice.
That's a beautiful lesson because because of your athletic prowess in the sport, you never had really the experience of being the worst kid on the team, or even the mediocre kid on the team. Am I correct in saying so? So the lesson that you learn, a lot of great athletes or people that are very good at what they do never learn as a coach. And I can tell you myself, I was the worst kid on the team as a freshman. Okay, and then I got to be pretty good. And by the time I was a senior, I was not the best, but I was right there. Okay, so I knew what it was like. So my thought process is, if you leave it on the mat and your best is to win one match, you're my hero. If your best is to be state champion, you took second or third, now we got to talk. You see what I'm saying? So
for sure.
I love that lesson. And what's beautiful to me is that you're hiring coaches that have to have that type of sensibility.
Yeah, it's without question. I mean, you have to go to the end of the earth for every kid on your team.
I love that.
And it is so important that you make those kids feel special. Now, there are kids that resist it, right? That
sure.
It's the kid, I don't really want to be there. They're not showing up.
Right.
You keep trying. And there's kids that do eventually. Unfortunately, sometimes there'll be a kid that'll quit.
I think you have a story like that.
I do.
I think that Elijah is a story that there you go. That kid, I mean, when I saw what he did last year, it was just, it didn't bring quite a tear to my eye, but it welled me up a little bit.
So that's an amazing story. There's a kid on our wrestling team, Elijah Durham Harris, who now is a senior.
Right.
I think he came out his
sophomore year. Maybe freshman. Freshman year.
Kind of scrawny at the time.
Yeah, raw bone.
Really nice kid, quiet kid.
Right. Smart as heck.
Yes.
Very smart.
Kept to himself.
Right.
You didn't suspect he would be a wrestler, and all of a sudden the kid dedicates himself.
Sure.
He connects with the sport.
Yes.
Finds something inside of him. Really worked his butt off to get good at the sport.
He's a beast now.
Changed his build. I mean, now he's an Adonis.
He is.
And I think he he is a poster child for Beechwood.
Isn't it something?
Yeah, and
It really
it's a beautiful story. I hope he has a very successful year this year. But
and how do you? I mean, who knows what he'll pay forward? It's
For
just
sure.
amazing. He could be a ripple throughout our society that
Without question.
that will bring back such great things. And and that brings me to when I think about the last few interviews, I interviewed Barry Broom, who talked about being the best prepared guy in the room with integrity. I talked to Scott Safanovitz about creativity, in how he is a police officer,
Sure.
and making sure that he can cut things off in the pass before they get too bad. And not many police officers think that way, but that's a beautiful thing there. And the DNA of the coaches, Sonny Marchetti
Yeah.
and Mark Haywald, of their parents and their coaches, it's become part of them. So like Mark was saying to me, I don't even have to think about Tony DiGiovanni. I am basically.
Right.
Right. He is in me,
Yep.
So, and I hear from you the caring and the tenacity. Leave us with one thing that you could take out into the world for anybody else listening to this today and bring it to their team, their organization, their corporation, their charity, whatever is their chosen profession. Could you leave us with one
So
thing?
you have to lead with love. There's no question you have to lead with love. That's 24/7, and it's literally unconditional love.
Gotcha.
I will also say that you have to work extremely hard. I've always taken the mentality of first in, last out.
Okay.
I will always take that mentality. I get very upset when somebody beats me to work.
Gotcha.
I've been working out in the mornings, and we have a cop that literally probably pulls up 5 minutes before me.
Oh boy.
And it's driving me insane. But
That's awesome.
you got to be the first one in, last one out.
Right.
And when you're working,
Yes.
it's 110%, and it's smart work.
Sure.
It's not. You can't be lazy. When you get lazy and complacent, you get hit with failure.
Yeah.
I will not accept that.
Okay.
But the other thing is, positive mental attitude
All right.
is
is love,
yeah.
because you have self-love.
Sure, is the backbone of your life. Is the backbone of my life. I will never let anything beat me down.
Gotcha.
You got to be so mentally tough that life is going to give us many twists and turns. People might go through divorce, bankruptcies.
Yes.
A lot of other tension that goes on.
Life comes at you.
It comes at you.
Yeah.
Newspaper articles that paint different pictures of people.
Sure.
But if you have a positive mental attitude,
Right.
and you live your life with love, and listen, I was having a conversation with my daughters
Right.
a couple days ago that were, they're going through teenage years. That this girl said something about me, and that girl said something about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The world coming to an end and means
Right.
nothing 10 years later.
Right. So
5 years later.
and my wife and I have a little difference of opinion on this.
Of course.
But you know what? If people want to be mean,
Yep.
they can be mean. The objective is to show respect 24/7 to people. If you show respect and love,
Right.
you will earn that back. So those are sort of the messages that I just kind of want to leave other people with. Lead with love. I say
Yes.
give 110%. Have
Sure.
a positive mental attitude.
Sure.
And the other thing is that I didn't say is you have to be an incredible listener.
Okay.
If you don't listen to people,
Yeah.
and their feelings and what they're looking for, you cannot be successful. Because you need people around you they all have feelings,
Sure.
and you have to be incredible listeners. In my role as a school administrator, if I'm not listening,
Yeah.
I'm missing a lot.
You're missing a lot. And I'm listening to you,
Yeah.
my friend. And the thing that's interesting is that a lot of meanness comes from self-loathing, and a lot of respect comes from self-love, probably 100% of both.
Yeah.
And so what I'm hearing is this leading with love. It's about self-love and then loving others, because that emanates and follows.
No question.
And Ryan, I can't thank you enough for sharing your story with us, sharing stories with us, and sharing that message of leading with love. Thank you so much. Continued success at Beechwood High School and
Appreciate
in your
it.
life with your beautiful children and wife and family. I wish you the best, even though when I'm across the mat from your wonderful coach, Jimmy Greenwood, I'm going to beat him.
Well, you better think again.
Exactly right. Other than that, they can win every match on the planet.
You better think again.
Indeed. Thank you again. This is Blood Time with Coach Cimoroni. We are blood. I want to leave you with this thought of the day. Walking through this world, luggage is not required. It is up to you.